in 34 naira is where it closed. I'm not referring to these guys as the Milost stocks. Japan was the top loser yesterday, 8.4% depreciation, falls back down to 65 kobo. Unity Bank was in 8th place, fell 4.6% to 3 naira 22 kobo. We talked about Unity Bank yesterday and how they're no longer, I guess, getting any funds from Milos. 362 naira to the dollar is where we are at. Let's start with the oil and gas industry. I wonder if Paddy Adenuga heard this news. Bolarinwa, Nigerian firms have joined the race to acquire Petrobras Africa assets. What do you think of the story here? I understand there's some two big firms are wanting to assist some Nigerian firms in getting these assets from Petrobras.
Well, I think this is interesting. Considering the fact that is happening at the time when oil prices are back up to the $70 per barrel levels, and Petrobras is on his way out of Africa.
Now, we have to let's help other listeners. Petrobras is from where? They are
is a Brazilian oil company.
NNPC equivalent.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
the NNPC of Brazil. That's Petrobras. Just so you guys know the amount of trouble that the company is in right now. All sorts of trouble. Didn't that company lead to the resignation of the what's her name? Dilma Rousseff, the Brazilian president?
The president, yes.
Yeah. She's under investigation.
Exactly. Yeah. With a lot of corruption cases.
Yep.
They are soiled in heavy debt,
and
so what they want to do is to divest, so that they can inject the funds they realize back into that company and keep it afloat. In total, they have about $21 billion of investment in Africa. So the $2 billion deal that is on the table now is just one of the deals that they are likely going to do. So they want to exit the market, and at this time, the story says Glencore and Vitol are pulling their weight behind the bidders to provide liquidity to them. I think this is likely going to be the strategy that you'll find in the oil and gas industry, because you are not likely to find Nigerian banks that have that level of liquidity to be a part of this deal. They may just provide some level of support in terms of guarantee, but in terms of providing liquidity to support this kind of deal at this time, considering the fact that a lot of them are carrying it, some of them are just out of provisioning for the oil and gas industry, despite the fact that the industry is coming back to the good old days. But again, for risk managers, they want to be very careful when it comes to transactions like this. At $70 per barrel, fantastic, but the downside risk is still not eliminated, because the market may swing downward. So this is the kind of arrangement that you are likely going to see going forward in the industry, where you see oil traders. This is more like getting financing from your buyer. So your final that's correct. Your final buyers, that's the oil trading companies, provide liquidity, and again on the back of the expected output that you are going to get from the field. So it's more like for Vitol and Glencore, it's more like is a strategy for them to secure their inputs. So when in this kind of deal, they lock themselves in based on a target price, and that guarantees the supply to them, and also at a stable price for a longer period. And again, for the Nigerian entity that are bidding, is the easy way for them to get liquidity to do this kind of deal. I think at a time like this, if they are able to key in at a good pricing, it may just be a fantastic deal for them. But again, the risk still lingers that the oil prices is not the storm is not over yet. The dynamics may change. The threat from shale oil producers still lies there, and so if the market swings in the negative to downwards, what it implies is you may get yourself caught.
Another Owando and ConocoPhillips.
Exactly.
Okay, the result of the bid will be announced in May, I believe. Yeah, they said May.
Yes, it will be announced in May.
So we'll see who wins.
So we have the Petrobras Africa's 50% stake in Agbami and Afikpo
oil fields here in Nigeria. Okay, good stuff. Shall we look at Okomu Oil's performance? Decent performance that came out from them yesterday, yeah?
Well, I think I would say it's fantastic.
What are we seeing here?
No, you see the top line shot up by 41%.
Nice 40% jump there.
That's huge.
Yeah.
In terms of the gross profit also went up significantly by 44% from 10 billion naira to 15.5 billion naira. We saw a decline in their funding costs. This went against what we saw in the market in terms of cost of funds last year. So what invariably happened is that their borrowings declined from 2.8 billion naira to 1.3 billion naira. So they were able to manage their funding costs despite the fact that there was a surge in the cost of funds last year. And that really helped them significantly to achieve a PAT of 9.1 billion. That's huge.
What was that? 86% jump.
86% jump from 4.9 billion naira in the preceding financial year.
And so, I mean, as far as their operations are concerned, we all know that they were helped by the 41 item
definitely
ban.
Definitely. Agric is in line with what we saw in the broader economy. The agric sector went up when we saw the GDP figures
come out.
So it is a reflection of what happened in the broader economy. So I think this is a decent performance. The agric sector is still going to be a jewel going forward as long as we keep our policies intact and the government keeps providing support to that sector. We will definitely see traction in that sector, and we would continue to see results like this. I think Okomu, Presco, those are stocks that
to look at. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, decent performance there. Okay, so let's move on to our dear government. The Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, they came out to say, hey, don't look at us. So this 13.5 million naira senators allowance is all about the National Assembly Service Commission. They're pointing fingers at them. You know, we can't talk about the economy without talking about wages and salaries and how much our dear government is paying our senators. So they're saying they have nothing to do with this, which is kind of weird, because they're the RMAFC.
Yeah, the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission.
Right.
I read the story, and the question is, who then wants to take responsibility for this?
Right.
This has been a practice at the legislative arm of government. He even got so bad to the extent that no people couldn't lay hands on certain figures on what our senators and House of Rep members were earning. But I think this has thrown at least some light to at least given the direction of what really those guys are taking on a monthly basis. These are part-time jobs in the real sense of it, and the guy is salaries on average should be 1 million naira, but they have running costs
that's what
that they don't account for. Which for each of the legislator they get about 13.5 million naira on a monthly basis. Ordinarily, the provision in is for that they are supposed to remit or give account of all their running costs on a monthly basis. Remit what was not spent. But I don't think that is the case.
Of course not.
So in this case, the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission is saying we are not part of this. We should hold the National Assembly Service Commission responsible for it. I don't think so. I don't think that should be the case.
You are the department.
Exactly. That's your obligation. You should throw, even if they don't want to be accountable, you should throw these numbers out. These numbers came to the fore because we had a Shehu Sonny coming out to say what
inspired him to do that. That was really surprising. He just came out and just said, "This is how much we're making."
Well, those are the kind of things that we expect.
All right, so Kufre sending a message. He wants to know what you guys think of MRS stock.
Kufre, you didn't tune in on Monday. We went into it with ARM and Ugodrio. MRS, numbers were bad. Yeah, it wasn't very good. So yeah, you want to really, no, MRS stock is not a buy right now.
All right, so Henry Manuel.
Maybe the guy is holding the stock.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. Okay, so Henry Manuel says, I know Petrobras is facing some difficulties at this moment, but the primary motivation is because the folks are pulling lots of resources into some of the deep water gas projects in the Shetlands in Eastern Mediterranean.
All right. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Henry.
Okay. This FAC allocation. Just yesterday they said that they had held on. They had frozen the disbursement of, I think it was 647 billion because NNPC figures that were being remitted didn't match what they were expecting. All of a sudden, in 24 hours, headline here says that they've ended the rift and they've disbursed the money to the federal government, states, and local government, just like that. So what happened?
Is it take or leave it? But the state governments, the local governments cannot stay without these handouts.
Right.
So the show that they had on Tuesday was just one of those shows.
Yeah, just to.
I'm sure their governors must have called them that you better take this money. We have obligations.
Right.
But interestingly, these are stories that you should have dealt with the issue. I think this goes back to the Ministry of Finance taking responsibility because before coming for this kind of meeting, you should have done your numbers well. It shouldn't be at the meeting where the Commissioner of Finance for the different states will be picking holes in the numbers that has been put together. And I think what the minister said is that they're going to hold the NNPC responsible for the shortfall and they have to remit what it is. But was this properly done so that you don't have that kind of meeting and is at a meeting that where the commissioners are now picking holes? You should do your job.
So ahead of time. So anyway, they passed that money on. Okay, we only got 40 seconds. Bolarinwa, federal government unveils transaction advisors for the national carrier. This is actually happening today. We're going to find out who the transaction advisors for the national carriers. 30 seconds, your thoughts.
I read the story and the question is, are we still having this conversation
about the national carrier? It's still going on.
Because really, what has this government done in dealing with the issues of the existing players?
Yeah.
Why are we so fixated on having national carriers as against even dealing with the issues of the existing players? We've had a lot of issues around Dana Airline and Arik and the likes. What solutions? Why don't we have transactions? Why don't we have advisors that will give us that advice on what to do to make that industry efficient and profitable?
Before you now add a
national carrier that will fail.
Bolarinwa, thank you so much for braving the traffic and joining us on Business Express. I appreciate you. 1/3 of the Horsemen. Thanks for your messages. Valentine, we'll be back with freshly pressed.
Exactly. So I'm not going to say thank you, Rotus, but you can catch him, Rot and Quartz, on Twitter. That's it. And the next, of course, is Muyiwa Falabi with Frankly Speaking. Good morning, Lagos.
Business Express on Smooth.
Nice one,